Dragon Ball Z kicks off with a revelation that changed the course of Goku's life forever, introducing us to the Saiyans. The most important characters from the series, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, are all Saiyans, but what if the Saiyans never existed? Not just Goku, and not everyone but Goku, but every single Saiyan. Let's get into it. With the Saiyans never existing in the first place, there is of course no enslavement of them under Frieza. He still exists perfectly fine, but is never given an order from Beerus to destroy the Saiyans, and there's no prophecy of a Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan God for either of them to be worried about. Goku is never born, never sent to Earth, which also means that Grandpa Gohan never finds him crash-landed near Mount Paozu. Gohan would live out his days without Goku and a full moon there to end him, and so 12 years would pass, leading us to the start of the series as Bulma starts her search for the Dragon Ball. She would come upon Mount Paozu searching for the 4-star ball as usual, but encounter Gohan. Unlike Goku, Gohan knows what a woman is and doesn't attack her. He would strike up a conversation asking her what she's searching for, and upon hearing about the tale of the Dragon Balls and Bulma's quest, Gohan agrees to give his prized possession to her. But he also wishes to accompany her, as she is just a girl that may need protection from whatever is out there in the world. It's not like Gohan's doing anything better, and Bulma is not going to deny the help. Together, they go searching for the Dragon Balls, and this part of the series goes by rather swiftly. Gohan is just a much stronger, more sensible, and well-trained version of Goku, so he would be of extreme help to Bulma. The first encounter is rather interesting. As night falls, Bulma places down her capsule to take shelter, and in the morning, Gohan finds Turtle seeking for help. Having been a former student of Master Roshi, Gohan is well aware of who Turtle is, and he immediately moves on to help him. He finds his way to Master Roshi's island, not stopping on the coast, but taking him all the way and taking Bulma alongside him. Once he gets there, of course, him and Roshi have their reunion, and after Bulma realizes he possesses one of the Dragon Balls, Gohan requests for him to give it to them. Because Gohan is one of his old pupils, he hands it over to him without getting Bulma to do anything weird. Roshi may still offer the Nimbus Cloud, but I could see Gohan rejecting it as they already collected the Dragon Balls as compensation, and it's not really necessary for them to have, unlike with Goku. Moving forward, Gohan and Bulma come across the village that Oolong was terrorizing, and collect another ball in exchange for Gohan defeating the monster. This is an easy task, quickly completed, after which Bulma forces Oolong to join them on their hunt, as his shapeshifting could be useful later down the road. Eventually, they end up in the desert, and Yamcha would attempt to attack the group before quickly realizing that the person he just swung upon is the legendary martial artist Gohan. In the original series, Yamcha was able to determine that Goku was the grandson of Gohan once he pulled out the power pole, so he is well aware of who Gohan is. With this knowledge, he quickly yields and apologizes, seeking training under Gohan rather than being an enemy of his. Gohan smiles and accepts, as Yamcha too joins the team. Fire Mountain is next up, where once again Gohan would reunite with one of his friends and fellow pupils, the Ox King. Knowing how to use the Kamehameha himself, Gohan doesn't need Roshi's help and takes out the fire, getting a thanks from the Ox King and the Dragon Ball. The Rabbit Mob isn't much of an issue, and this leads us to the conflict with the Pilaf Gang. Even if Gohan isn't tactical enough to prevent getting gassed, once they're stuck inside the chamber, he would use a Ki Blast to get them out of there, and then be forced to fight the robot the Pilaf Gang are using to try and take him out. Gohan doesn't wish to kill them, so he doesn't, but he does take them out rather easily, forcing them to run without even getting the chance to summon Shenron. At this point, Bulma would do it herself before realizing that her wish was already completed in the form of Yamcha. But before she could wish for something else, Oolong would shout that he wanted a pair of underwear, which he would receive. As the dragon disperses and the Dragon Balls go across the world, Gohan is fulfilled with the journey and he prepares to leave. But Yamcha catches him before he does, requesting that Gohan actually take him under his wing and teach him martial arts. Smiling, Gohan agrees as he goes back with Yamcha to Mount Paozu. At this time, Krillin finds Master Roshi and starts his training as well. Unbeknownst to either of them, both masters were planning on joining the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai to test their students. Once the tournament comes around, Goku's spot would be taken up by Gohan, and Roshi and him would recognize each other, sharing a respective nod as to suggest, may the best student win. Krillin, having trained alone and without the influence of Goku, would be cockier than his original self, and maybe even a little weaker, as the fire under him to compete with Goku in power would not be there. However, this doesn't stop him from beating Bacterian. Yamcha and him would have met for the first time at this tournament, and he would have been the one to take Goku's place in reminding Krillin that he doesn't have a nose. Their friendship starts here. Sadly, since we are still following the original bracket of fights, Yamcha's first fight is against Jackie Chun. While putting up a much better fight than originally and using the techniques and abilities he learned from Gohan to challenge Roshi, Yamcha would still lose this fight. Gohan's fight against Girin is a win for him, and Krillin vs Roshi goes the same. Gohan's next fight is against Nam, which he would consider to be an interesting challenge, but still, it's an easy win. Of course, this leads to the final matchup of Master vs Master, Gohan vs Roshi. And to be fair, it's hard to scale Gohan at this point in the series. The only scaling scaling we can do for Gohan is when he fought Goku in the Fortune Teller Baba arc. He was able to fight on par, actually best Goku, who had trained with Karin by that point, and Roshi had even admitted that Goku might be stronger than him. If we take that scaling into account, Gohan should win this fight against Roshi, but it would be close to say the least. Following this, Gohan would send Yamcha out to collect the 4-star Dragon Ball as a part of his training. We've seen Goku's masters do this before, where after they're done training him, they would tell him to go seek his own path as there's nothing left for them to teach him. Think of this as Gohan's way to do this for Yamcha. Seeking out the 4-star Dragon Ball would lead Yamcha to come to blows with the Red Ribbon Army. At this point, Yamcha is likely just about a little weaker than Goku, not too significant that he can't beat opponents like Colonel Silver, Major Metallotron, Ninja Murasaki, and General White. After beating these opponents, Yamcha would need to get the Dragon Radar fixed as Goku did originally, which would lead him to Capsule Corp. This is where he would reunite with Bulma. Their relationship would be ongoing for now at least, as Yamcha is a more stand-up guy in this series. The Dragon Ball thereafter next would be in the ocean, where they would need Master Roshi's submarine, and it's at this point where Krillin joins the journey. Yamcha and Krillin would need to fight General Blue once they get down there, and while they aren't able to overcome his telekinesis alone, together they're able to fend him off and force him to escape. After realizing that General Blue failed to get the Dragon Balls for him, Commander Red would hire Tao Pai Pai to assassinate Yamcha, who would be seeking out the next Dragon Ball in the sacred land of Karin. Tao would arrive around the same time, and much like how his first encounter with Goku went, Tao would lay Yamcha out and kill Bora as he did originally. Believing Yamcha to be dead as well, he leaves. But Yamcha would just barely cling on to life, climbing up Karin Tower in search of the sacred water. Now, because Yamcha is not Goku, he doesn't receive a Zenkai after healing from the wound that nearly killed him. Goku took 3 days to get the water from Karin, but we know it took Roshi 3 years. Yamcha could fall anywhere between that. Again, he's not Goku. So after failing for 3 days, Yamcha gets fed up, gets Krillin, and the two of them take on Tao together. With teamwork, they're able to throw him off and start to best him, with the grenade playing its role in blowing Tao up in the end. After this, the two of them would dismantle the Red Ribbon Army to the best of their ability. However, Jiro would still escape. The Fortune Teller Baba arc goes a little differently, with of course no Gohan to participate, and that was kind of the purpose of the tournament originally. With no Goku and no Gohan that came to Baba in hopes of seeing Goku once more, I don't think a tournament would happen, and if it did, to be honest, there's no guarantee that Yamcha and Krillin could come out on top against the fighters. In option 1, Baba gives them the location and they beat the Pilaf gang as originally, summoning Shenron and wishing Bora back. Option 2, she doesn't tell them the location, they lose the tournament, and eventually the Pilaf gang come for the other Dragon Balls, which would lead Yamcha to finding the 7th. So either way, it kinda works out here. Bora is wished back, and like Goku did originally, Yamcha would jump up and catch the 4-star Dragon Ball, returning it to Gohan with his mission being complete. Once Gohan learns of his failure to complete Karin's challenge, he sends him back to the tower and to finish it no matter how long it takes. There's a 3-year time skip between this saga and the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai. I have enough faith in Yamcha to believe that he could do it pretty easily in this time frame, helping him to get a lot stronger, but of course, this time around, there was no sacred water. Getting the water was a training the whole time. With that done, the tournament is next up, and the fighters are all the same except Gohan does replace Goku once more. Now, with Yamcha versus Tien being the first fight, it would be a much more competitive fight than originally. I'd even go as far as to say that this fight would resemble that of Goku's fight with Tien. However, as in that fight, Tien would still come out on top. This fight does, however, exhaust Tien much more than originally, and it's going to be a hard task to overcome the rest of the fighters. Roshi and Gohan make a pact as they don't wish to best Tien, but convince him not to serve his master as he does, because Shen is straight up evil. Roshi fights him first, and like originally, after multiple attempts at trying to bring him over to the right side, Roshi leaves it to Gohan and jumps out of the ring. Gohan would best Krillin in the semi-final and then face Tien, hoping to get through to him. Much like how Roshi did, Gohan pleads to Tien not to go down a dark path, as martial arts isn't meant to be tainted the way his master is perversing it. Gohan doesn't go into this fight with the intention of besting Tien, so after he makes his plea, he gives Tien what he wants, to be the winner of the tournament. He forfeits as well. Like originally, this display of honor would touch Tien's heart and he would start to change his ways. As the tournament concludes, Tambourine, the child of Piccolo, tries to attack the fighters in hopes of retrieving the 4-star Dragon Ball in Gohan's possession. Of course, he fails as Roshi, Gohan, Yamcha, Krillin, Tien, and Chaozu are all present to stop him. His defeat leads the two masters to the horrifying realization that King Piccolo is free. With Shen having abandoned Tien and Chaozu after they saw the error in their ways, the two of them would join the Turtle School in putting an end to this threat. However, taking on Piccolo is no easy task. The only way they can win is to seal him away using the Mafuba, a technique which Roshi and Gohan know, but would be life-threatening to perform. However, there is no choice here. Taking 2 Dragon Balls, Roshi would lure King Piccolo out to his location, with the others standing by ready to ambush him. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu attack him all at once as another child of Piccolo appears to help his father. Gohan strikes a fight with Symbol, killing him, but as he turns around, Piccolo takes his hand through Tien, and blasts Yamcha into oblivion as well. In the midst of the chaos, Roshi throws down the rice cooker and uses the Mafuba Mafuba, taking Piccolo by storm. But like originally, he misses and dies in the process. Piccolo is extremely weakened, but when he turns around and sees Gohan preparing the Mafuba as well, he fires a blast towards him. However, Chaozu jumps in the middle, taking the full force and dying as well. Krillin blinds Piccolo with a solar flare Tien had just taught him before the battle, leaving him wide open to the Mafuba, which successfully works. But sadly, it also leaves Gohan dead. Krillin quickly seals the rice cooker as the only survivor, with the rest of his friends all dead. It's then that Kami finally shows himself. Without Goku, King Piccolo is still defeated. It's just a much more tragic ending. However, it's an ending that can be fixed with the Dragon Ball. Kami would thank Krillin for his help and tell him that he will revive his friends in due time. With King Piccolo being sealed, there is no Piccolo Jr., so you may think, oh, 8 years of peace, how wonderful. No, that's not it. The Saiyans don't exist, so there's no Raditz, no Nappa, no Vegeta, and Frieza never learns of the Dragon Balls, and even if he did, he would be going to Namek, where he still wouldn't be able to get his wish as Guru dying would result in the Dragon Balls turning to stone. Frieza would not come to Earth because it's not a valuable planet, so that threat stays far away from Earth. This means that there's give or take 12 years of peace between the time Piccolo dies and the unfortunate but inevitable arrival of the androids which Jiro would still make. But this isn't a go to hell the series ends right here moment. Remember, there's no Saiyans, there's no Frieza, which means these androids are purely based on human DNA. Jiro doesn't even have Namekian DNA with the lack of Piccolo. While these androids are astronomically weaker than the original androids, there's still gonna be a problem for the humans. Either way, we can technically say that they could all die in their first encounter with them and the series ends, but I don't think that's likely. There would definitely be casualties, but Kami doesn't have the Saiyans or Goku to rely on this time around. Once he sees the destruction, he would step in and save Yamcha and Tien after he can see that they stand no chance with Krillin and Chaozu dying in the fight. It's at this point that they don't really have a choice but to let Earth suffer for a while as they figure out how to get strong enough to beat the androids. This would lead to Kami training them like he did to Goku, which he should have done in that time of peace regardless, but we know that he's a rather useless god most of the time. Karin would give them the real Ultra Divine Water, which they would survive drinking. Popo and Kami would train them and also introduce the Room of Spirit and Time as they did with Goku, which they would train in for some time. However, even with all that, their next encounter with the androids would still lead to them needing to escape. It's still not enough. Tien and Yamcha are just not enough with the tools that they have on Earth, and this leads to Kami to talk to the big man and ask for a favor. I don't think this is out of reach for Kami to ask King Yama to allow Yamcha and Tien training on King Kai's planet, because otherwise the Earth is quite literally doomed. With that granted, the two of them would train on King Kai's planet and learn a technique that is a human's best friend, the Kaioken. This is the only way I see the androids beaten this time around. With Tien and Yamcha learning the Kaioken and undergoing King Kai's training, they go back to Earth and defeat Android 17 and 18 together. Kami would revive all that he can, but Chaozu would stay dead as this would be his second time dying. Kami would also see to it that there's no more androids and find Jiro's lab, which would lead to him destroying Cell, and that takes care of that threat. There would be peace once more until the arrival of Babidi and Deborah, which would not come for a long time. Since we're following technically the future timeline because there was no time travel, Babidi would eventually come for Buu's egg, but that doesn't happen for like 10 years or so after the androids in the future timeline. Shin and Kibito originally found Trunks and trained him to be able to stop Babidi, and here their best options are Tien and Yamcha. Now that sounds worse than it is, but Tien and Yamcha are not a total loss. There's definitely potential here for both of them. In the Buu saga, Yamcha and Krillin got much stronger after they went to the afterlife and trained for just a little bit. Pair that up with Tien and some Z-Sword training, with time I believe that they could get strong enough. With Yamcha's joking behavior, they may even end up breaking the Z-Sword, which would only lead to even more strength as they would get their potentials unlocked. Of course, nowhere near the level of a Gohan potential unlock, but it doesn't hurt. The Deborah fight would be a difficult fight, and Shin and Kibito may still die as they did in the original future timeline. But I can see a scenario where they win here, especially because we can't forget about techniques like the Neo Tri-Beam and hell, even the Mafuba coming out from Tien. But I do understand if some of you think I'm reaching here. There's a world where this scenario would end here with Deborah killing the Z-Fighters, but there's also a world where I think they might survive. Regardless, this is the end, as Beerus would not wake up since there's no prophecy of a Super Saiyan God, and Dragon Ball Super simply doesn't happen here. I hope you guys enjoyed, like and subscribe, and check out this video to continue your good day on YouTube.